So I enjoyed your guys' ideas a lot on my question. When I think about the death of the author, I mostly think about it in terms of fiction, but I definitely can see how it applies to nonfiction works too, like laws or the Bible, depending on how strictly you believe that the Bible is depicting events that actually happened. I definitely think that the questions still apply, but I do think that it's also very different. The author of a novel like The Name of the Wind may have some ideas of what their characters may do or think, but when you think of something like the Bible, that serves a very different purpose to something that is just trying to tell a good story. Because even if a story has morals in it, that's still very different from a book that's basically claiming that it has all the answers to how the earth was created and how people should act. I think that the Bible is projecting itself more to be like a self help book in that way than like a normal novel. If you read a self help book, knowing who the author is extremely important, I think. People are going to give you advice on how to live your life based on the lives that they've lived and the values that they have. Jordan Peterson is going to come out with a different self help book than Oprah because they come from very different worlds and they value different things. Now, the Bible isn't nearly just a self help book, but even some of the more literal parts of the Bible can be taken into question whether they actually happened or not. Genesis seemingly lays out how the world was supposed to be created, but many have pointed out the similarities that Genesis has to some creation myths that precede it, and say that some parts of the Bible are meant to be more metaphorical. There are some parts of the Bible some people say are meant to be taken literally back then, but now we don't need to worry about it as much because they were for health reasons back then, but we don't need to think about them as much now. These are interesting examples to me because they kind of take the death of the author idea in both ways. We shouldn't kill the author, we should pay attention to the author, but not to get their interpretation, rather to see the context that they wrote this story in to see whether it still applies wholly today. I've been more inclined in my life to chalk up a good portion of the Bible to this. I have in no way been following every word of the Bible literally. I haven't even read the full Bible, but I don't think that it's really possible these days to live by the standards that the Bible holds people to. Mostly because of the ambiguity and all the interpretations. That's where all the denominations of Christianity come from, is disagreeing on even one passage of the Bible. These small sections can mean a lot to people, and people are really good at judging others for really small differences if they're used to mostly talking with people who believe the same things that they do. Ultimately, it was a human who put the pen to paper, and I think that that's significant. I think that it's significant that we live in a different world than the one back then. There's a really amazing show called The Good Place. If you haven't seen it already, I really highly suggest you do, and I'm going to spoil it here, just fair warning. But basically, the show takes place in the afterlife. When you're on Earth, you get points for when you do good things and negative points for when you do bad things. And if by the end of your life you have a certain number of points, you get to go to the good place. There's a scene that happened in the last season where the protagonists find out that actually no one in the past 200 years has gone to the good place ever. And the reason is because life has become so complicated that even a seemingly good action has so many negative consequences to it. Buying a piece of lettuce at a grocery store gets you like 5 points because it's good food, but you get like negative 300 points because it was grown on an unethical farm and it was flown over to where you are using natural gases contributing to climate change. I think that we would all be massive sinners if the Bible was taken completely literally. Just the stuff in Leviticus means that we would all go to the bad place. So I think that we all believe in some level of death of the author when it comes to the Bible. It's just where you draw the line, basically.